Hello, a very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News and to Wednesday night's calendar.
Hello, here are tonight's main stories.
Holiday hell. The Yorkshire tourists stranded as deadly floods hit Greece and flights are cancelled.
Well, this is our hotel this morning. It's almost like we've been bombed. It's just firecracker, lightning, thunder.
People in those rooms, both people down there, they've had to just pick up their passports and the money and basically what they had on and run out of there quick.
Never forget their sacrifice. 40 years on, honours for two North Yorkshire police officers gunned down by a serial killer.
It's been too long waiting, but it's lovely that they have recognised him now. The boys can come up and the grandchildren got somewhere to come and see the great-granddad.
Also tonight, the first questions for the operator of Last Resort. 3 months after being taken over, those driving TransPennine Express forward are put on the spot.
It's officially one of the best cycle trails in the UK. Join me shortly on the Monsell Trail.
Thanks for joining us. First tonight, to the Yorkshire holidaymakers caught up in the deadly floods in Greece.
Tourists on the holiday island of Skiathos have been told to stay in their hotels and not to go out after torrential rain left streets underwater and holiday accommodation without electricity.
Storm Daniel, as it's been called, has also led to flights between Skiathos and Leeds Bradford Airport being cancelled. And the British government has now issued a travel warning for Brits. Michael Billington has more.
Well, this is our hotel this morning. It's almost like we've been bombed. It's just firecracker, lightning, thunder. It's absolutely, I've never seen anything like it.
After the wildfires came the rains. Greek holiday islands parched just weeks ago by extreme heat, now facing the latest crisis the climate can throw at them.
We were actually in that room down there.
Devastating.
It just continual for what 36 hours, continual, and it was the noise, it sounded the thunder and the lightning continual all day.
Alan and Joanne Varnham from near Huddersfield are among the British holidaymakers now stranded after a year's worth of rain fell on the island of Skiathos in just 24 hours.
It was just like heavy artillery. It was like guns going off and
Like a war
bombs.
zone.
You know, it was almost as if fireworks were going off in the sky because it was just one after the other after continual.
And the speed of the water has gone straight into the rooms in a flash. And people in those rooms, both people down there, they've had to just pick up their passports and the money and basically what they had on and run out of there quick.
Torrential rain turned roads into rivers. Those that could get through are now stuck at the airport with all UK flights cancelled. Sarah Bevitt from Harrogate is one of hundreds still waiting for news.
Texts keep coming through from Jet2 telling us that they're obviously monitoring the situation. We were supposed to fly today. That's cancelled. Just to keep waiting for emails, which is all that we can do. We're all just sitting around waiting to hear what's going on.
But Storm Daniel is threatening to bear down on the island again.
We've had warning alerts on his phones again from the Greek government telling us to stay indoors because it's going to be continuing well into the night, more storms to come.
Further disruption then not only for holidaymakers but for those who call this island their home.
No regrets. We've had such a lovely time. Lovely time. I'm upset for them. Sorry. I'm just heartbroken for them.
Joanne and Alan Varnham ending that report. Emotional scenes there at the end. And Michael joins us in the studio now. We saw just how bad those floods have been, Michael, in your report. There are amazing pictures there, frightening pictures. What's the situation in Skiathos now?
Well, actually, Joanne, Alan and Sarah were all due to fly back to Leeds Bradford Airport on the same flight today. Obviously, that's now being cancelled. And of course, Jet2 aren't sending any passengers out to Skiathos at the minute either. In fact, all holidays to Skiathos have been cancelled between now and next Tuesday. Now, inevitably those people that are stuck out there at the moment will be asking, when will I be able to come home? In the last few minutes, Jet2 have told us we plan to fly our scheduled programme of flights to Skiathos with no customers on board so that we can bring customers back to the UK. They've also said they might put on extra flights if needs be.
What a summer it's been for holidaymakers.
Oh, it certainly has. I mean, we had those wildfires in Greece back in July. We had that air traffic control problem last week that disrupted flights, and now this. So really a huge summer of disruption for thousands of people who've chosen to fly abroad this year.
OK, Michael, thank you.
Thank you. The family of a North Yorkshire policeman who was one of 2 officers to be shot dead by a multiple murderer have implored people not to forget the sacrifice of frontline bobbies on the beat who put themselves in harm's way to keep our communities safe.
Yes, PC David Haig and Sergeant David Winter were both gunned down by the fugitive Barry Prudhomme from Leeds, whose 17-day killing spree prompted Britain's biggest ever manhunt.
Now, memorial stones are being unveiled to the 2 fallen officers more than 40 years since they were killed simply doing their job. John Hill reports.
In a quiet corner of a North Yorkshire woodland, a guard of honour for a fallen officer. And watched over by his loved ones, at last the unveiling of a permanent public memorial to PC David Haig, 41 years after his death.
What we are here today to say to PC Haig and to all other police officers throughout the land are just 2 words. Thank you.
It was in June 1982 that PC Haig was shot dead. He'd been sent to Norwood Edge car park near Harrogate to arrest a poacher. Instead, he found a hardened criminal, Barry Prudhomme, asleep in a car. Prudhomme shot PC Haig dead and embarked on what would become a 17-day reign of terror.
There are now 10 police forces involved in the hunt for this killer. North Yorkshire Police have appealed to 2 car drivers to contact them immediately as they could have encountered the gunman on Monday afternoon.
In the days that followed, with the police on his tail, Prudhomme shot Nottinghamshire couple George and Sylvia Luckett. George died, but his wife survived. Prudhomme then fled back to North Yorkshire, shooting and wounding 1 officer before shooting dead Sergeant David Winter at point-blank range in Old Malton. Cornered, Prudhomme eventually turns the gun on himself. Today, for David Haig's widow, memories and a determination that her husband's sacrifice should not be forgotten.
He was he was a lovely man. He really was. It was my first love, but it's been too long waiting. But it's lovely that they have recognised him now, and the boys can come up, we can come as long as we can, and the grandchildren got somewhere to come and see the great-granddad.
The murder robbed David Haig's 3 sons of their father. Carl was 11, Richard just 3 years old.
I remember going into the front room, the chief constable was there, I think it was Mr Henshaws was there, and he said my dad had been killed, and that was it. I just burst into tears. I didn't know what to do.
I think he's a hero, you know. He's a man that's gone to work and obviously he's not come home, and we're proud of him. I wanted to know him, I wanted to meet him properly, but I'll never get that chance ever. But at least I've got somewhere now to reflect and be with him. And that's it.
The public should know that these young people and these older people risk their lives every day when they're going out. And I think it's very important that we should all remember these people that have given their lives for our safety.
Tomorrow, the Police Memorial Trust will unveil a memorial to Sergeant David Winter, a permanent reminder of 2 officers killed in the line of duty. John Hill, ITV News, North Yorkshire.
You can still hear the pain, can't you, in the family as they speak, even 40 years on. Now, it's been 100 days since TransPennine Express was taken into government control after months of leaving passengers in our region stranded on platforms.
Well, today MPs have been hearing evidence on how it's been performing since it was stripped of its franchise.
Our political correspondent Sharon Preet-Carer joins us live from Westminster. Good evening, Sharon Preet. Take us through some of the changes to TransPennine Express over the last 100 days.
Well, there's been plenty of twists and turns, haven't there? And if you remember, this all started before that 100 days with complaints from passengers about the endless delays and cancellations that they were having to deal with. If you go back to January and February of this year, about a quarter of all of TransPennine trains were being cancelled. Now, that's why it was taken over by the government in May. And the real question now is, 100 days on from that, have those changes been made, and is the service any better? Well, earlier today at the Transport Select Committee, the operator of Last Resort, which takes over these failing companies from the government, said that the improvements had been made.
You can see that if you run a railway on time, people come back. On the good days, when we're suffering at the moment from periods of action short of a strike work and all the rest of it, you can see when we run a good railway, passengers come back, people are happier.
Well, he thinks passengers are happier, but we asked passengers at Leeds train station what they actually thought.
Well, it was delayed for quite a lot of people, and then the onward train to Hull has been delayed as well. So
there's strikes, and then there isn't, and then there is, and then there isn't. So it's always, you never know really. It's not reliable.
I would say it's not really changed much at all. We're still getting cancellations. My train was dumped at Leeds and was supposed to go on to Hull, and they scrapped it completely. So they've had to find an alternative service and go someplace else.
I think it's got a bit better. Trains are a bit better than what they used to be, a bit more modern.
Keep cancelling trains, that's all I'm saying.
Just hearing what some of the passengers at Leeds train station there are saying, there seems to be a contrast between the passengers and what the management is saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And earlier I spoke to the Shadow Secretary of Transport, Louise Hay. She's also the MP for Sheffield Hallam. And she said that things have been improving, but there are some issues still, especially around strikes.
For the last 7 weeks, we've had consistently cancellations of less than 5%. As you said earlier, at the beginning of the year, we were looking at cancellations of 60, 90 trains a day, which was totally unacceptable and leaving entire swathes of the north completely cut off. So we have seen some improvements, particularly in local industrial relations. But while this national industrial action is still ongoing, then we're going to see problems right across the network.
Well, it was up to Hugh Merriman, the Minister for Transport, to defend the government at that committee earlier, and he said that those cancellations have got down to 5%. So although things are improving, it does seem like not good enough for passengers just yet.
Taryn, thank you very much.
You're watching Wednesday night's calendar with Lara and Ian, and still to come on the programme, we're at the glorious Peak District beauty spot, crowned one of the best cycling routes in the country.
And no awards for the weather view for many first thing this morning, but the hot sunshine did come out for most of us by the afternoon. All the detail on that heat wave a little later on.
But first, a murder investigation has been launched after a man was stabbed to death in Barnsley. Officers were called to George Street in Worsborough at around 11:20 last night. The man was taken to hospital but died shortly after. A 45-year-old woman and a 44-year-old man have been arrested on suspicion of murder and remain in custody.
A service has taken place to remember 6 people who lost their lives in a horrific accident in Sowerby Bridge 30 years ago today. A lorry which was unknown to its driver, that 8 of its brakes were defective, careered down a hill, hitting a van and a shop in Bolton Brow. Among those who lost their lives were 3 women and a 2-year-old girl. To date, family and friends were invited to light a candle and reflect at Christ Church in the town.
It's been announced that 5 Wilko stores in our region will close next week. Shops in Morley and Wakefield Kirkgate will shut on Tuesday. 3 further stores in Huddersfield, Dewsbury and Cortonwood and Barnsley will close next Thursday. Yesterday, retail rivals B&M bought some Wilko stores, and talks to sell other parts of the business to interested parties are ongoing.
People in Yorkshire who've had hospital treatment, a cosmetic procedure or even a tattoo abroad are being urged to take a free hepatitis C test amid fears that thousands of people may have unknowingly contracted the virus.
Well, experts say equipment may not have been sterilised or hygiene protocols not followed.
People can have the virus for years without showing any symptoms, and if left untreated, hepatitis C can lead to life-threatening conditions. Kevin Ashford reports.
For millions, it's been a summer of travel, but it's feared many people may have been at risk from hepatitis C infection through having procedures like tattoos or cut-price cosmetic and dental work abroad in unhygienic conditions. It's thought Moga Lumali was infected 25 years ago in Sri Lanka while having hospital treatment there following a motorbike accident while on holiday. But he didn't find out until earlier this year when he went to hospital here following a fall.
They were telling me hepatitis C and everything. I was acknowledging that, and then when they said to cirrhosis of the liver, I went morbid. I went, oh, that's it, I'm done. My bucket list. I got to the bucket list. I goes, what haven't I done? And that's all I'm thinking of. You know, they're talking to me, but I've zoned out. I'm going, bucket list. What haven't I done in my bucket list?
Mo's now managing his condition and works to raise awareness of hepatitis C. It's feared a lack of public knowledge of the blood-borne virus, which if untreated can lead to liver failure or liver cancer, may be increasing people's risk of infection. In a survey, 68.1% of people in Yorkshire who were questioned said they had little or no knowledge of hepatitis C. 62.5% said they had little or no idea how it was spread, and 28.2% said they didn't realise you could have the virus without knowing it.
Make sure that when you're having the tattoo, that the place that you're going, A, is registered, that they adhere to health standards, and they're using new needles. I think that we have a culture now whereby, who did your Botox, who did your new teeth, and it's great, it's fantastic. But you need to make sure that where you're going follows safe procedures.
In there is everything that you'll need to do the test.
The public's being urged to get tested for hepatitis C with a free NHS at-home kit to try to detect the estimated 70,000 people who have the virus but don't know it.
It is simple treatment that is taken, and the key thing is, as well, is that there are limited or no side effects. And I think that's really important for people to know, that you're not just treating, you're aiming to cure and eliminate the virus in your body, but also that we're aiming for that to happen with minimal or no symptoms.
And the earlier that treatment starts, experts say, the better the predicted outcome. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Well, after calendar, it's the ITV Evening News at 6:30. So here's Mary Nightingale with details of what's on the programme.
Coming up in the ITV Evening News, who knew what and when? Pressure grows on the Prime Minister over the school's concrete crisis. The father and stepmother of Sarah Sharif are seen for the first time since the 10-year-old's death. Here, temperatures soar as the UK is hit by a September heatwave, and they are back. The Rolling Stones announced their first new album in 7 years. Well, do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
And bopping along to the Rolling Stones is our Keza. Kerry, it must be the heat getting to you, I think, is it?
Well, we saw earlier in the programme, didn't we, that it's not all the same, is it? We've got the heat wave, so if we've got high pressure over us, then the low pressure's got to be somewhere. So I thought I'd show you, just in case you want to know what's happening in the sort of like bigger picture. We've got a split in the jet stream, and so that allows the low pressure to go over parts of Portugal and Spain and also Greece, where I think in mainland Greece they had 750 millimetres yesterday within 24 hours, and that's about a year's worth for our patch, a whole year's worth in less than a day falling over Greece. And that has allowed us to get this nice warm humid theme or feed from Africa, as well as, of course, as that Saharan dust. Luckily, the low pressure for Greece is going to head towards Italy and Malta, and then head southwards. And then for us, as we head into next week, we start to get things a little bit more normal, a little bit more mixed. but we've got to get there first. And of course, it is very hot. We talked yesterday about heat. We're expecting it to be well above the average for the time of year. We have had some mist and fog today. Absolutely love this. It's a bit of a grainy photo, but there's 4 people at Robin Hood's Bay, but there is the ice cream van, of course. And so the daytime average is around 19 at the moment. What we're expecting or experiencing over the next few days is the high 20s. We could get 30 by Saturday. How unusual is this? By night, we'd call something that didn't drop below 20 Celsius a tropical night. We might not get that, but we might get 18s, 19s, and we'd have to go back 7 years to get anything near that. It's very unusual. And by day, it is very unusual to get a high of 30 in September, and we'd have to go back to 1911 in Sheffield, 1949 in Hull, and 1961 in Kilsney in East Yorkshire. So, yep, it's exceptionally warm by day and by night, and of course the full forecast a little later on.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, because it's so beautiful, the weather, the Tour of Britain continued in our region today with its 4th visit to North Nottinghamshire in 7 years. The 4th stage of the UK's biggest professional cycling race, which started in Sherwood Forest near Edwinstowe, is the 3rd longest stage of the race with a little over 1,200 metres of climbing. Cyclists finished the day in Newcombe-Trent. Dutch cyclist Olav Kooi was the first to cross the finish line with his 4th successive stage win. Well done to him.
And speaking of cycling, a beauty spot in our region has just been crowned one of the best cycling routes in the UK.
Yes, no surprise. The Monsell Trail, which runs from Bakewell to Blackwell Mill, is part of the former Midland Railway. Its famous viaduct can be seen for miles around.
Now, trains last ran there in 1968, and today the trail welcomes hundreds of thousands of visitors every year.
Tonight, one of those visitors is our very own Adam Fowler, who's very lucky because he's just out and about in this glorious sunshine every night. Isn't that right, Adam?
It is. I'm having a wonderful time here. Rother Valley Country Park yesterday, and today the Monsell Trail. Absolutely marvellous week I'm having, and I'm not the only one, I tell you. I was at Miller's Dale earlier on, which is on the trail, and I was asking people there how they'd been enjoying this wonderful trail.
It was accessible for the disabled, us being disabled. Brian is 90 now, and so we just take our time.
How are you finding the trail, guys?
Wonderful, thank you.
Yes, very nice, very enjoyable, thank you.
On the trail today, have you seen anything particularly eye-catching or anything?
Yeah, the clear water for a start, and the dipper.
What's a dipper?
A dipper?
Oh,
a dipper?
Little bird.
A little bird.
It's like a robin, but it has a white chest, and it sits on the river, and then it dips like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's very good, Phil. Shall we all do it?
Yes, so now you know what a dipper is. There you go. You learn something new every day. I'm at Hassop Station at the moment, which is about a 9-minute cycle ride from Bakewell, and I'm joined now by Duncan Stokes from the Monsell Trail Cycle Hire. It won't be any news to you, will it, that this is now officially one of the best cycle trails in the UK?
Well, not to us, because we know what a good trail it is. We're in the heart of the hilly Peak District, and we've got 8.5 miles of level, completely traffic-free route right through the heart of the Peak District, taking in all the scenery along the way.
Yep, it's fantastic. And you've got an electric bike here. I was lucky enough to go on one of these earlier on, experience this beautiful trail, and you've doubled the amount of bikes you've got here, haven't you?
Well, yeah, the demand's been that high for them because they do open the option of hiring a bike to more people who perhaps haven't been on a bike for a while, and it just makes it so much easier. But you can still get your exercise, still get your fresh air, and get out in the countryside. And the trail and we are open all year round, so it's great to do in the winter as well as on sunny days like this.
Is it for people that are a little bit lazy, maybe?
It can be. What's wrong with that? You know?
I thought you were going to say no. Of course it's not. Of course it's not. It's jolly good fun. Now, anyway, listen, I spoke to Kate Wilson earlier on from the Peak District National Park about accessibility, one of the big reasons this is so successful.
That's what we're really trying to achieve, is it be accessible for as many people as we can. So the surface is graded, so it's nice and smooth, so people on foot, on bicycles, or with pushchairs, wheelchairs, mobility scooters and horses can all use the trail.
Have you got a favourite part of this trail as well?
I think the tunnels, they're quite exciting. In some places they're 400 metres long and you can't see daylight from one end to the other. There is lights, but they go off at dusk, so that can be exciting.
So there you go. It attracts around 300,000 visitors per year, does this trail. And if you are coming down here and you find yourself a little out of breath, positive mental attitude, because there's a nice Bakewell tart waiting for you about 9 minutes down there. So just keep going.
Oh, you'd like that, wouldn't you, Laura?
I'd love a Bakewell tart.
Go on, give us a quick dip. Give us a quick dip before we go, Adam.
Bend your knees.
My new move. I'm gonna get this as my new dance.
Thank you. Now, for over 50 years, the Emily Moor transmitter near Huddersfield has been a much-loved Yorkshire landmark. We know we're nearly back home, don't we, when we see it?
Since 2018, though, a temporary mast has stood alongside it, squeezing us out and bringing you calendar into your homes every night. Now, the mast was needed to allow engineers to undertake essential updates to the antenna on the tower as part of the nationwide project. Now, though, it's finally being taken down, piece by piece, with help of a helicopter.
Yeah, and people are just being asked to stay away from the area while that work is being carried out, by the way. Now then, let's get the weather. Here's Kerry.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello again. So the settled spell continues with, yes, some morning mist and fog, but a good dose of very warm to hot sunshine over the next few days or so. Some warm and muggy nights, but a coastal breeze developing tomorrow and low cloud potentially slow to clear.